Welcome to DU Digimon.
Hello and welcome to DU Digimon. You may be wondering why this is a voiceover recording instead of my face. I was going to say beautiful face, but face, definitely face. Basically, I accidentally deleted the intro to this video and I'm strapped for time, so I'm not filming it again. So I am just doing this as a recording. Basically, this video is a BT22 EX9 Tier List video. It may be coming out slightly early for the general kind of meta. We've only had one regional and then we've got another regional this coming weekend at in Portugal. But we need to do this because we are filming Jank Tank 10 finally on the 20th of August. So we are doing a double time turnaround on this one. So from Monday to Monday, the voting poll will be open in a link in the description below, as well as the comments and our Discord. Thank you very much, and apologies that I've not filmed this properly. Yeah, we lost time. We lost time on this one. Anyways, the rest of the video will be as normal, so I hope you guys enjoy. Like and subscribe, ding that notification bell. Thank you very much. Bye. So, starting with, of course, Tier 1 is going to be Royal Knights. That is staying squarely in Tier 1. Still one of the best performing decks that the game has seen in recent memory, and still will be. Obviously, going to be very interesting to see what the ban list on the 23rd is going to do to the deck and others, which is the other thing with this tier list as well. The ban list, of course, is coming out. We've got Jank Tank 10 coming out before that ban list, or at least we'll be filming it before the ban list, so that is going to be very interesting to see, you know, how this tier list would change after the ban list. Maybe we do a reshoot of this tier list, you know, after the results have come in, and B, maybe see what things are looking like after the tier list, after the ban list as well. You know, we'll see. But yeah, Royal Knights definitely staying in Tier 1. Blue Green Imperial. Now, Blue Green Imperial is still a really strong deck. Don't mind the banned icon that's on here. That's just because it's banned from Jank Tank, you know, explicitly. But I don't think it's really been putting in as many results as it used to be. So I am going to plonk this down here into Tier 1.5. It's just not been doing as many results for me recently, and although it's still really good, I think it's just not as good as it once was, at least in the scope of the current meta. You know, DNA problem decks are going to have their DNA problems, and that's why it's squarely there. Then we've got armor. So technically, blue armor obviously got support back in BT21. I don't recall seeing any real results for it recently, but I do know it did a lot of results in BT21. Very fast. You can play it in two different ways now. You can either go the traditional, we're going to go up into Magnum on X and stall them out, or go into a more like champion rush kind of style. Am I going to annoy people by putting this into Tier 1.5? Yeah, probably, but you know what? I'm still putting it down there. It's not put results in recently. You know, whether or not it will, you know, change my mind, still putting it there. Got to remember, of course, guys, Tier 1.5 is basically any deck that I'm unsure of being Tier 1, you know, but it could still have an argument for being Tier 1. That's the whole point of Tier 1.5. So I'm putting it in there. Lord Knight Purple Base, I'm actually going to drop down to Tier 2. You don't really see it enough anymore. So I think that's fine. Purple Hybrid, I'm actually going to keep in 1.5. That still has got some results in places. You know, still does good. You know, it's got some generic tools like the Arrestramon Superior mode that it uses. So I'm going to keep that there. Sakuyamon, I'm actually going to put that jump that up into Tier 1. Sakuyamon, I think, is squarely the best yellow deck in the game. Super efficient, super strong. Yeah, so I think that is a perfect place to put it. And that is where I am going to put it. So back down to Tier 1.5, to RP Imperialdramon. This has not really done any results anywhere. It's still fairly good though. But I'm going to drop it to Tier 2. I know it's kind of crazy, but I'm gonna drop that down to Tier 2. Crossheart as well, I'm gonna drop to Tier 2 as well. I don't think we've seen enough of it recently. It's Crossheart. The issue of Crossheart is that in a meta where Royal Knights is doing really well, Crossheart is also going to suffer to any sort of anti-meta picks. You know, the moment a Psychmon comes out, your cross mechanics are not going to be working properly, for example. So I think I'm going to drop Crossheart there. Shine Grey. Again, this hasn't really had any results recently. You know, both, you know, coming from BT21 and going into BT22. Obviously BT22 obviously hasn't had a lot of results yet, and you know, please, you know, anyone in commenting below, I understand we're probably not doing this at the right time in terms of what you would call a BT22 tier list. You know, a lot of people would argue do a tier list at the end of a format. Some people do it at the beginning of a format. You know, all this sort of stuff. First of all, I don't define the rules. This is all just opinion based, and it's also not going to be the final tier list as well. Obviously, you guys all have the vote on the final one. But the other thing as well is obviously we've got Jank Tank 10 coming up. We need to make sure we get this tier list done so we can decide what is legal to play for that tournament. Hence why we're doing it now. You know, this is probably the closest deadline to a Jank Tank we've ever done, frankly. So I'll be updating all of the participants of Jank Tank 10 daily, no doubt, with updates to the votes so that they can better prepare and kind of, you know, see what's going on. But Shangri, go back to it. Yeah, I'm putting it into tier 2 as well. Sorry, Shangri, I love you, but yeah, you're going there. Adventure, I'm going to keep that in tier 1.5. There's an argument you could jump it up to tier 1 maybe, but I think it's now going into BT22. I think we're going to see less of Adventure, which is somewhat of a shame, I think, because I love the deck. You know, I think it's one of my favourite decks of this year. I really love it. I would be tempted to put it into tier 1, but I don't think... I mean, it's had a lot of... It's had a fair few results back in BT21. I don't think any of it has really changed in BT22, though. So, yeah, I'm going to keep it there. Yellow Armour, we never see this around anymore. I'm dropping it down to tier 2. You know, say that what you will. Galacticmon, I'm going to keep in 1.5. I think that's still a pretty cool deck. And actually, I find Galactic is one of my... You know, you always have a deck that you're like... You know you have the right matchup, but you just lose to it anyway. Galactic is one of those decks for me. I tend to find, you know, not all the time. In fact, I beat it today, testing a new Omnimon list. That you know, I beat it quite square-handedly in that. But a lot of my other decks just struggle a bit with Galacticmon. So I'm going to keep it in tier 1.5. Maybe that's personal bias, but I am going to keep it there. Red Hybrid. Now, we've not really seen Red Hybrid a lot. Obviously, we've got a lot of new tools around, so people aren't going to be doing things. I still think Red Hybrid is pretty good, even after the hit to the promo one. So, I think I'll keep it in 1.5. I think I'll keep it there. 7 Demon Lords. Now that is a deck that has slowed down considerably and is going to struggle in a meta where you've got a lot of fast-moving decks that do a lot of checks really quickly. Obviously, EX10 is on the way. Might be getting some new Demon Lord shenanigans in that. We've already seen stuff like the Creepy Mon, for example. You know, whether or not all of that will definitely help the deck, I don't know. But I think maybe a hot take or a shit take. I don't know. I'm going to put it in tier 2. Ancient Garurumon, so the blue hybrid stuff. Now this is interesting because you obviously had the hit to Hammer Spark. You've still got, you know, I still think it's pretty good though. Like, I always feel like this is a deck you don't see a lot, but when you do see it, it does really well. So I'm going to keep it in tier 1.5. Screw it. That's where it's going to go. Birds. Now this is classic birds. So obviously this is a good kind of way of looking at some of these images and how they will be. This is classic birds. There is gear birds later on, but this is classic birds. And I am, as much as I love this deck, I'm going to drop it down to tier 2 because it's just the gear birds version of the list on paper is less consistent, but in terms of execution, the gear one is just so quick in terms of the memory looping, so efficient, that it is just a superior version of the deck. It's still a version of the deck that I've still not built as someone that loves birds. In fact, I've literally got birds sat in front of me, currently unsleeved, because I needed the sleeve for something else, and I decided to unsleeve birds, despite the fact it's one of my favourite decks. So birds are going to drop down to tier 2. I think it is still good, but Gear Birds is definitely the better version of that deck right now. Continuing on with these guys, Gallantmon. Gallantmon is still putting in so much work, whether that be the purple base version or the red base version, it's still getting loads of results. So, do you know what? I'm actually going to put it into tier 1. I think this Gallantmon is the best it's ever been. And the ban list better hit that Growlmon X, I tell you now. You know, else we're going to have a problem, Bandai. Leviamon is still a strong deck. I think it still takes people by surprise. Hasn't really done that many results, but I think it can still do really well, so I am going to keep that in tier 1.5. You know, like I say, my general, you know, opinion may differ to yours. Let me know in the comments nicely below. Then going into tier 2, so anything in here that we think is going to go up or down. So Purple Base we've already put in here. Necromon. Necromon is kind of fun, kind of strong in certain situations, but in the majority of them, I tend to find it's just a lesser purple deck. Is it so lesser I'd put it in Rogue tier, which of course is going to be legal for Jank Tank Rogue tier. I am going to say yes. Screw it. I'm bumping it down. It's going down to Rogue tier. Screw it. Giga Seadramon. Now, this is one of Sam's favourite decks. He loves this deck to pieces. It does still get the odd top in certain places. I did actually do for the ban list video the kind of correlation of different first place results, and Seadramon did at least have a couple, and it is one that can take people by surprise. I mean, I've played it against it to death because it's one of Sam's favourites, and some of my best decks do struggle with it and have lost to it. So I do think it is a really strong deck given the right situation, and definitely with the right pilot. So I think I'm going to keep it in tier 2, and not putting it up, but I'm going to keep it in tier 2. Magna Hybrid, I will keep in tier 2. I think that's fine where it is. Metal Garurumon. Now, technically speaking, Metal Garurumon has found a new lease of life with the Omnimon Alter S version of the deck, where it's gotten quite a few topping results recently, using the Garurumon engine, essentially, to climb up into Sagittarius mode, slam down your Blitzgreymon Ace, Digivolve up into a Metal Garurumon to gain a bunch of memory, so the EX1 Metal Garurumon specifically, then DNA into Omnimon Alter S and do your OTK from there. So actually, given that deck has had a lot of results, I'm bumping Metal Garurumon up to tier 1.5. Of course, this is also an EX9 tier list, so any decks that got improvements in EX9 will be in this tier list, and probably will be easier to place than the BT22 stuff. Next, Begidramon. How the fuck did this ever end up in tier 2? I put it in tier 1. Obviously, the funny thing with Begidramon is that we don't use Begidramon in it. We just use Gallantmon tops now. But I think the engine on its own makes it tier 1 regardless of your top end. I think that is absolutely where that belongs. Mineral, I'm happy to keep that in tier 2. It's getting new support in EX10. But I think for now, I will keep that in tier 2. If it gets the right setup, it will kill you on turn 2. Yeah, without fail. Tyrant Caboteriumon, so Bugs, I think I'm going to keep that in tier 2 as well. It's still a deck that I think a lot of rogue and jankier casual decks are going to struggle with, so I will keep that there. War Greymon OTK, this was. So that has had a bit of a new lease of life. Really strong OTK version of that is going about at the moment, so I again would say it's tier 2. It's kind of in the same vein as a Seadramon. It's kind of like the red version of Seadramon, if in a sense, where you're using a lot of your X antibody stuff. You're using certain shenanigans to digivolve more quickly, and do a lot of checks in very quick succession. So I think that makes sense in my brain. Three Musketeers. This is still a very tricky deck. I remember when I was testing some of my BT22 stuff, this actually has a really good matchup against certain things like Adventure. At least in my testing, it had a really good testing, really good time against that. So I think I'm going to keep that in tier 2 as well. That is fine to stay where it is. Examon again is another deck that can be pretty damn good, so I think I'm going to keep that in tier 2 as well. Vortex Warriors, same thing. Obviously, any deck that's got Medieval Galamon as one of its main dudes is going to do well, so I think tier 2 is fine. Same with the Linkmon stuff. If you get the right setup, that is a really hard deck to move off the board, so absolutely. Gamamon did actually get new support in BT22. I don't know particularly if you use all of it. I think from talking with Dane, who is our main Gamamon person, the jamming you could get, I think it's from Chaos Gamamon, I can't remember off the top of my head. But essentially just means that you get lots of checks and stuff like that. Or if anything, it's the piercing, I think, from the Wizen. I think it's get piercing from the Wizen Gamamon. Because your DP goes so high that sometimes the jamming doesn't really matter. It matters for your earlier game sometimes, but not when you've gone into your serious one. So having the piercing with the raid, I think, is probably the better thing going on there. But yeah, I think I was happy to stay in tier 2. Same with Medusamon. Medusamon is a glass cannon deck. It can potentially screw over someone really quickly, but I think it's got an issue where if it doesn't do enough checks, then it's kind of screwed. Hunters. So Hunters, I think... do we pop Hunters up a tier? I think in my head it's kind of stronger than I thought it was going to be. So actually I am going to put it into tier 1.5. You know, I think there's an argument for it being in tier 2. Again, that's why tier 1.5 exists. It's the borderline decks between tier 1 and tier 1.5. Nah, I'll keep it in tier 2. Keep it in tier 2. Blue Flare, I'll keep that in tier 2 as well. Not had any improvements, but it's too good for a lot of these other decks to deal with. Three Great Angels has seen a bit of a lease of life recently. We've seen some topping results for it. So yeah, do you know what? That one I will bump up to 1.5. You know, there's always new Angel support pretty much in every set. So I think we're gonna keep that there. Deep Savers in tier 2. Sometimes it's not really consistent enough. Sometimes it's not even really a Deep Savers deck anymore. It's more of a Seedramon deck or a Ryugu deck. I'm gonna drop it down. I'm dropping that down to Rogue tier. I think, you know, it's not. I mean, I very handily beat that with Kentaurismon the other day, and I would not necessarily put Kentaurismon in tier 2. So I'm going to put Deep Savers in Rogue tier. At least, yeah. For the time being, this is not the official final version of this list, as you know. Next, we have got Alphamons. This is the Chronicle version. Then there's the classic version. There's the CS version as well, but there's so much Alphamon. Chronicle version, I think I'm going to keep in tier 2. Chronicle, of course, you can just change the top end for again. It's another engine-based deck. You could put Giga Seedramon in it. You could put Galamon X in it. I've experimented with that before. So I think tier 2 is where that will go. Blackwall Greymon's going to get a new lease on life in EX10. Right now, though, I think it's too slow. I think it's too slow for this meta. So this could be my bias showing. I'm going to put it in Rogue tier because, you know, I would love to play it in Jank Tank. I don't know if I will play it in Jank Tank 10, but, you know, I think it's kind of the slowest version of Greymon right now, and Greymon itself is not inherently that quick. The Alphamon Classic stuff, bearing in mind you can play the new Alphamon in it, which is an insane card. The Kyoko doesn't really do anything for you, but the CS Alphamon is still bonkers. Just, you know, minus 15 for existing, basically. So I think I'm going to keep Alphamon in tier 2. Then we've got Axel. I'm also going to keep that in tier 2. I think that is a really good gatekeeper deck. I mean, when I'm teaching people how to play the game, that tends to be a deck that I will play, because it's one that can show them the power of decks in the game, like if it gets to its full extent, because once you get to Valderarm, you've basically won. But it's also a deck that isn't the fastest at getting to that point, so I tend to like to use it as like a entry-level deck for people to either learn with or to kind of play against for their first time around. Beelzemon. Now, Beelzemon is going to get new support in EX10, but we're not there yet. But I still think the amount of memory gains it gets, I think it's going to keep it squarely in tier 2. D-Brigade. This did get Digimon Ace earlier this year. I think if I put it in tier 2 in BT21, I think we keep it in tier 2 in BT22. I think. I could be wrong on that, but that's where I'm going to keep it. Bunnies. So this technically got support with the new Terrion line from BT22, but not really, because it's all CS oriented. It's not really changed at all. I'd say it's tier 2 still. Bloomlord. Now this technically did get support because you can use the new Togemon from BT22 in it. You know, because it uses same level cards. So if you've got Palmon, Palmon X, you can still get that effect off. I think keep it in tier 2. I think that is fine to stay where it is. Dexdoru, same thing. Technically speaking, you could put the CS Alphamon in it as a top end, which would be quite funny. But I think that will go there. Jesmon. This is a deck that could potentially use a lot of the Royal Knight stuff for Jesmon GX shenanigans. That could be quite funny. But ultimately tier 2. Emperor Hybrid, tier 2 as well. Fenrir, I think there have been people experimenting this, just slapping Superior Mode into it. I keep it in tier 2. Same as Seekers, yeah. Numemon technically got new support. If you want to be really technical, I think does Golden Numemon help you at all? I don't know if it does, you know. I'll just keep that in tier 2. Keeping a lot of stuff in the same place, not going to lie. Lilithmon, I will drop that down to Rogue tier, I think. You know, who's playing with Lilithmon anymore? You know, Fucking no one. Greymon Toolbox. Now this does have access to stuff like Yuko, stuff like Gaiomon potentially. We have got Gaiomon as an actual option for BT22 stuff as well. I think keeping that in tier 2 is right where that is. Again, the toolbox version of Greymon, just any version of Greymon really, I tend to find can be another kind of gatekeeper deck. If you can beat it handily, then you can pretty much ascertain that you are a pretty strong deck. If you can't, then you're not that good. So I'd say that's fine where it is. Millenniummon, yeah, tier 2 still, I think that's fine where it is. Setcon, that could stay in tier 2, yep. Ice Snow, do I drop that? Nah, I'm going to put it there, I think. I'll keep it in tier 2. Lucema, Lucemon, Merva, got Superior Mode. Again, there's a lot of these purple decks can field Superior Mode potentially, and Merva is one of those. To be fair, you can even just use Merva as an engine and other stuff. I think I'll keep where it is. Right, Millith. I'll put that next to Lilith just to be fun. That is fine. Nature Spirits, I can stay in Rogue tier. Nightmare Soldiers, I should have taken off the tier list actually because it is a previous champion. As well as the Ganku stuff, if that was ever on here. No, it wasn't. But Nightmare Soldiers could stay in Rogue tier. One Jank Tank is fine where it is. This is Omnimon Ultra S, so this is the classic EX4 engine. Technically speaking, does have updates with the Omnimon Ultra S from EX9, as well as some of the EX9 stuff like Alteris mode, Sagittarius mode, Blitz Ace, and Cress Ace. But I use the EX9 Omnimon for a different logo. I think because of those things, I think we could bump this up to tier 2. I wouldn't put it in the same echelon as Omnimon, but I'm gonna put that there for the time being. Sylphimon, yeah, I'd say that's rogue tier, even with the DNA shenanigans that you can get up to. It's really, really good. But it's got to get there. It's very piece dependent. Next is Sukamon. Sukamon, I think, is fine in rogue tier as well. Technically got a little bit of support in EX9, but not really because you don't really use it. So that's fine. Pulse One, yeah, rogue tier. I wouldn't call it jank. I would say it's perfectly serviceable where it is. The Source Strip Vikemon stuff, I think you pilot that correctly, it could screw over pretty much any deck in the game, but it has to be piloted correctly, and doesn't have, does punish you quite a bit if you don't get things right, as well as also having consistency issues. Skull Hybrid, of course, we do actually have a Skull Meramon deck now, the Boltmon deck, but I kept this on here because of the Bants. It is, a special deck to my heart. So I'm going to keep that right there where it is. Again, it's another deck you could put Superior Mode in, but I'm going to keep it in Rogue tier. Royal Base, yep, Rogue tier, that's not changed. Shakamon, I would say that's not changed either. Shakuamon, yeah, tier 2. I love the Shakuamon engine, but yeah, I'll keep that in Rogue tier. Zhangpeng, fine, stay where... saying that, you got the new Ryugu stuff, and the Ariomon. Technically, I probably should take that off, actually. Yeah, I'm going to take that off the ban list for you guys. I will remember to do that. I'm going to take that off because technically that's, you're probably playing that as Arielmon now. Yellow Hybrid, I will keep that in Rogue tier. That's fine. Justimon, same thing. Beelstar, same thing. Ogubon, same thing. Black Hybrid, same thing. Black War Greymon OTK, same thing. Chaos Gallantmon, technically speaking, is Megidramon now. I should probably take that off of the list. I'll take that off as well. Gabu Bond, yeah, that can stay there. D-Links. Okay, D-Links is a funny one because it actually won the last regional I went to. It won the store regional at Darksphere. Shout out to Bone Duster again for that amazing result. Like, no one expected that. Do I, because of that, put it up to tier 2 because of one regional win? I mean, you can use a varying top end with it. But, I mean, did he just cook? Or is D-Links actually stronger than everything it is? That is... Screw it. I'm putting it in tier 2. Screw it. Fight me. I'm doing it in tier 2. Screw it. Sometimes these decks get different leases on life because of the meta they live in. Royal Knights hates Floodgates. D-Links is a Floodgate deck. Fight me. Right. Where was I? Cherubi. That could say that. Eosmon, yeah, that could say that's absolutely fine. Ryugamon I need to take out. There you go. Jellymon, yeah, that could say there. Dark Masters is getting new support in EX10. I don't know if it's even that good. I'll be honest, looking at it. Just put, you put all your Dark Masters into security instead of the trash to use them, so you can't just use purple based shenanigans anymore. And I don't think it even works if you did yellow based shenanigans with that, because they have to be face up. So I can stay in Rogue Tier. Dorbitmon, now this did get a result recently. Technically you can use anything that is new that has dragon stuff in it. So Spearmint again. Bunch of other stuff that's come out recently. I'll keep that in Rogue Tier though. I think that's fine. Dynasmon self-immolates itself too much without necessarily recovering enough. I think with the right base, it could be a Tier 2 deck, but I think I'm going to keep that in Rogue Tier. 4 Sovereigns, too slow now. Too slow, it's staying there. Mirage, How the Mighty Have Fallen, I think it still can do good. You could potentially just change up the top end. So you're using the Mirage engine for something else. Perhaps, so like Ancient Garurumon maybe, or Gigaseedramon, something like that. But I think ultimately I'll keep that down there. Mastemon. Mastemon's an interesting one, because technically you got this support with the promo and with the BT22 Mirai. I don't know if it's enough to really bump it up anywhere more than Rogue Tier though. Yeah, I'll keep it there. Leomon, keep that there as well. Heavy Metal Dramon. Yeah, I hate to say it, I'm putting Heavy Metal Dramon in Jank Tier. I have gone up against this deck so many times it loses to itself every single time, because it splurges itself out and then it's like, oh yeah, cool, I've got 2 cards in hand, I can do nothing. So I'm putting that in Jank Tier. I don't even care. Legend Arms, I think is a Rogue Tier. Yeah, Rogue Tier. Mosesmon. Okay, so we're in the Jank Tier stuff now. Mosesmon I think can stay there. That's fine. Ravemon as well. Ravemon's kind of crap now, let's be honest. Rosemon, I don't even know. I mean, it's got a bit of new plant support. I'm going to bump that up to Rogue Tier. Why not? I like Trains. The Trains deck, that can stay there. Hero. I think Hero has had way more results than people thought it would have. And I did much better in the last format than I could have anticipated. I'm actually going to bump it up to Tier 2. Did get some results. Has done well. Fusing itself with the Atmon stuff. I think that can go right there. That is fine. Bagra, that can stay there. Fortitude Tribal, stay there. Grey Knights, Barbamon, Argomon, Andromon, all of these stay. D-Reaper can stay there too. Mamemon, Chessmon, 4 Great for Dragons, Green, Gacha, Marsmon, Jumbo, and Titamon. All of those can stay there. None of that is changing at all. I am blitzing through these because it's pretty late and I've got videos to edit, guys. So I do apologies. Right, let's get on to the BT22 stuff. So this is stuff we actually have to put in and put some effort in. Abadomon. Now, Abadomon, I think, is potentially really strong. Contending with Galacticmon, I think, for being the best black deck we have. Can get really oppressive, can be really hard to deal with as well, because you just try and kill it and it just comes straight back and then move out and delete you and stuff. You can also play around it though. But I think I am going to put it in Tier 1.5. I'm going to put it in Tier 1.5. Screw it. Arielmon, I think it's had a few little results here and there. I wouldn't say it's Tier 1.5 though. I think I'm going to put it into Tier 2. Obviously the Ari I don't know how you say it. Do you say Arielmon? There's no L in it, so Ariemon, I suppose, is the way to say it. I haven't really seen how the deck works yet. I've been sent lists, but I've not tested it myself. But I think Tier 2, I think, is fine for it. Gearbirds, that is just the better version of Birds. I'm putting that into Tier 1.5 because it has had some decent results. And is another deck that is a very key example why the Gearmon engine needs hitting. Boltmon, I love this deck. It's really funny. It's so reliant on getting Jimmy Ken out. Oh my god, it needs another Tamer or something so you can use those main effects more often. They're so expensive as well, because even if you do the Jimmy Ken thing, assembly, oh cool, I've got into Boltmon for 6. I use one of the main effects and gain back 1 memory, but I've spent 3. Great, so I've left them on like 5 or 6. It can be really fun. But I don't think it's Tier 2. I think it's at most Rogue Tier. kind of going towards Jank Tier, but I'm going to put it in Rogue Tier because I think there are some shenanigans you can do with it. You can put Anubismon in there. I've been fielding Darktramon Ace in my list. Yeah, so I think that is that can Rogue Tier, but I think it's not that great. CS, I'm going to put that up in Tier 1.5. It is a glass cannon deck, but it is so quick in its engine. Like I did locals the other day with it, and genuinely, one of my games I won by turn 3 because Alphamon is just an absolute giga chad. So I'm going to put that in Tier 1.5. No worries there. Diaboromon, I think, has gotten better than it used to be. It has made a top, at least, to my knowledge. But I think I'm going to put it in Tier 2 as well. It can do some really cool things. That you can put like the Eater Adam in, for example. Kind of almost like a hybrid. But I think Tier 2, I think, is the best place for that to go. So Chimeramon from EX9. Now, this is a deck I think that's really hard to get right in terms of your ratios, in terms of all of that. I wouldn't say it's Rogue Tier, though. I think I'm going to put it in Tier 2, down near the bottom. Not that that has any meaning. But I think that is going to be a Tier 2 deck. DM Machinedramon, I think same kind of reasons. I'm going to... Oh, I lost it. Yeah, there it goes in Tier 2. I've never been that impressed by the DM version. I've been more impressed by like the normal Machinedramon or the Gearmon engine, which is what we're going to look at now. And I think that can actually go into Tier 1.5, kind of this purple-based Gear Machine deck. Feel free to count this as normal Machinedramon, if you will. It kind of is that, uses all the level 5s rather than DM stuff. I think that's fine where it is. DM version 1.2. We've not really seen this around anywhere, but I think I'm going to put it in Tier 2. Just because it shares a lot with the Omnimon Ultra-S, just a different engine. So I think that's fine to go there. Eaters, we've not seen a lot out of this one. Again, a lot of potential with it. And if it gets to its final end board, it will screw you up. But it's getting there. It is quite slow, but I'm going to put it in Tier 2. Gaiomon with the new tricks, Tier 2 as well. I think most of the Greymon decks being in Tier 2, I think is fitting. With only exceptions being the Blackwall Greymon decks. Gaiomon, is just a deck that says you will fight me, which I quite like. It's quite funny. Like Chaos Gambit, we're not doing that. Galaxy, Tier 1. Easiest decision I've made all day. And I need to... Funny enough, I should actually go back and film this for the ban list video, actually, because that's not out at the time I'm recording this. But Galaxy is dumb for a lot of reasons, and it's been a problem for such a long time. I think it absolutely is Tier 1. I mean, I went up against a version of it today where they'd essentially worked out a memory loop with it, with Leopardmon Ace. Yeah, Leopardmon Ace. And it was so stupid, so dumb. If I was a competent Galaxy player, I'd love to do a video on that combo just to make people aware about it, but I'm going to try and just explain it in my ban list video instead. But yeah, Galaxy is dumb. So dumb. So good. Kentorosmon, I'm going to put that in Rogue Tier. I love it to death, and if it gets the right scenario, it will just go so wide that nothing can deal with it. But the problem is with it inherently is that it does immolate itself. Yes, it's got a lot of ways of being able to make those recoveries, but I think ultimately Kentorosmon is going to go in Rogue Tier. I think that is a Jank Tank legal deck. Leopardmon, I think I'm going to put in Tier 2. And reason being is Leopardmon can be a lot of different engines with the same top end. So you could use classic green stuff, you could use CS stuff. I've been experimenting with that. And it could just cheat out loads of stuff as well. I mean, the Leopardmon X can just cheat out Medieval Gallantmon for free, potentially. The Leopardmon Ace will make loads of blockers and give you 2 memory when something would leave. It's really good. But I think not that good. So I'm going to put it in Tier 2. Sorry, I'm definitely losing my voice. Lord Knight Black Base. So this has had some updates to it. So that's why I've changed out the image for it. You've got the Rie, you've got the new Lord Knightmon. I think ultimately still Tier 2. I don't think that's going to make much of a dent in terms of how it will do. Omnimon Red Base. I'm going to put this up in Tier 1.5. And I'm going to do the same No, I'm going to put the red base in tier 1.5, and I'm actually going to put the CS base into tier 1. This has been getting a lot of locals results across the board. When I did my little collation of results, which actually I'll put on screen now for you for that ban list video, Omnimon came up as the most, and it specifically said Omnimon Nokia, which could be the red base version, could be the CS version, it could be both versions of those decks. But the CS version, I think, is possibly the better way to go. Obviously, I did a profile with the red base version, but the CS version is pretty cracked, not going to lie. And I think it's one that could be really good going forward. You know, you've got stuff like Miraculous Mega Knight, completely changes how people play. You've got loads of different ways of removal. Very consistent now. You're using kind of this greater toolbox. You know, you've got Ukomons, and you've got EX4 searchers, and you've got the CS stuff. So yeah, I think that's a tier 1 whereas the red base is going to be tier 1.5. That's how I'm feeling. Uranusmon, I think that's going to be in tier 2 along with the Appmon stuff. Where is Appmon? I'll put you right next to Appmon if I can find Appmon. There it is. So I'm going to put that there. That has a surprising amount of tricks to it. Can take time to set up, but I think it is pretty cool. Puppets, I'm putting that into not tier 1. I'm going to put it in tier 1.5. I think this deck is like, you know, it could go so wide. It's really hard to deal with. You must categorically have D-Digivolve to go up against it. Otherwise, you don't have a way of dealing with it, really. But at the same time, it does require its setup. But I'm going to put it in tier 1.5. You could make an argument for this one being tier 1, though. Absolutely. Tyrannomon, I love the new Tyrannomon stuff, but I'm going to put that into tier 2. I think it's pretty strong when it gets going, but again, very piece dependent. Ulforce, ironically with the Ulforce Ace, I don't know if a lot of them use Ulforce. I'm going to put that in tier 2 as well. I've seen a lot of people experimenting with it, and all of the people I've got up against with it on DCGO, I have beaten. It has not fully worked out, so I don't think it's as lofty as people were hoping it was going to be. Wind Guardians, all of the other ones are in Rogue tier. Do we put you in Rogue tier 2? You've got a lot of jamming, a lot of Vortex. I'm going to put Rogue tier still. Yeah, screw it. Again, not the final version of the list, guys. It's just my version, my votes, and obviously I'll put this all in. And that is all of them, because these guys are being taken out. So that is my tier list there. So quite a bit more in tier 1. Whether or not all of those deserve to be in tier 1 ultimately, I don't know. That's just how I'm feeling. You know, happy voting with the vote, guys. Like I say, it's going to be open Monday to Monday. The link to the voting poll will be in the description below, as well as on our community page and Discord. So do make sure to go and vote to decide on what will be played in Jank Tank 10 next week. You know, and also if any of you guys are in the Aylesbury area, you know, do come on down for Jank Tank 10. Obviously, I will put the results for the tier list into Discord, so that anyone from outside of our little messenger group can see it. But you know, let me know if you guys are down. Obviously, just bear in mind it is a small shop, you know, down at Dead Universe in Aylesbury. But you know, if anyone's down to clown, come and join us. Would be really nice. But that is my tier list for BT22, guys. Sorry if I've kind of rushed it and not gone into as much detail as I would like on every deck. It's a lot of decks to go over, and I am tired as fuck. Anyways, like, subscribe, and ding that notification bell, and we'll see you again on the next video. But until then, happy voting, and keep it digital.